Okay, continuing on room building. One of the biggest problems you're going to have is getting the scale of your stuff right, so it doesn't look weird and wacky. It's easy to think you kind of know how everything is supposed to go together, but it really helps if you have some way of figuring out how big things are supposed to be. So what I do is just make a simple measuring stick, essentially, just a thing that I can use to compare, so I know how big a foot is, what 4 feet is, what 6 inches are, something like that. So all you need to do something like that is to have one established thing, like the room here. I'm just gonna say my ceiling is 9 feet tall. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go to my side view here, and this is super simple, and it seems really obvious once you do it, but it's really useful, and it works in all sorts of other things too. So I'm just going to duplicate this, so Command D. I'm going to move it up so it's sitting on top of the previous one, and then I'm going to hit Shift D, and every time I hit Shift D, it's going to do what I did before. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that's going to be my measuring thing for the ceiling. Okay, it's not as tall as the ceiling yet, right? So what I need to do is just go over here, and I'm just going to scale this. Okay, I'm going to put my pivot point at the bottom of this first cube here. Actually, I'm going to group these first. That way I want to do that twice. So there's my 9 things. Group, Command G, center the pivot here. I'm going to just delete the history and reset the transforms on it. So hit the D key, move that pivot point down here. Okay, I'll check it on this. And this isn't essential, but it keeps you from having to move things around a lot. Just hit D again to set it. Okay, so there's my side view. Then I'm just going to hit R, and it's going to scale from the bottom. And I'm just going to scale it up to the top of the ceiling. Like that. Okay, I'm going to check, make sure it's not going through the roof. It's not. Okay, so this is now, each one of these represents a foot. Because my ceiling is 9 feet, each one of these is a foot. Okay, and remember, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to pretend you're doing inches or centimeters. This could be miles, meters. It doesn't matter. Numbers are numbers. If you have 9 of them and you say this is 9, then that is evenly then dividing this into 9 things. Okay, you can do the same thing then with one of these, and just, let's say you make another cube here, but you make, just squash this thing like that. Okay, and I'm just going to duplicate that. Okay, see, and I should be doing this from the side view, but I'm not. So that's 2 of these, and then Shift D, 3. Oops, I didn't do that. Control D, move it up. Shift D, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, then if I take these 12 guys, I've got little spaces in there, but I'm not going to fuss too much about that. I'm going to group those. Okay, I'm going to center the pivot on the group. And then I'm just going to go to my side view here. Look at this. Okay, and since I have a little bit of space between these, which is technically not great, but just for all intents and purposes here, that's okay. I'm just going to move this pivot down so it's at the bottom of that. Scale this down so it matches this. Now this 1 foot thing is broken into 12 inches here. Okay, so again, this is not something you need to do, but it will give you confirmation that your things are right once you start putting stuff in your scene. Okay, because no one wants to have a 9-inch tall coffee mug or a 2-inch tall pencil that's supposed to be a 7-inch pencil. It just looks wrong and dumb. But you can always compare it to something like this, and you don't need to put this in your scene like I've got it here. You can just grab these things, just move them off to the side. They don't need to be this big. You can squash them. As long as you keep that vertical proportion correct, everything else is going to fall into place for you. Okay? So I'll use that later when I'm figuring out where to, how tall to make my table or my chair, things like that, because all those things are established sizes that we don't necessarily know, but we know when they're wrong. So you can just go through your room, your bedroom, your office, wherever you're sitting right now, and measure things, and then you can use this to make sure it's correct. Okay, makes sense. If I want something 3 feet tall, I just move it over to here, scale it up so it's at the 3 point, boom, I know it's good, move it around, place it, I'm good to go with the next thing. Once you get a few of those things going, everything's going to start to look right. For instance, I want to put some plugs on the wall, maybe a switch on the side. You know, I need to know plugs are a foot off the ground to the bottom of the plug. Switches are about 44 inches to the bottom of the switch. Things like that, if you have them wrong, they look funky. Okay, you don't know why, but you know they're not right. Okay, so that's just a little tip. Take it for what it's worth.